Welcome to the Quantum Healing Oracle. Today we're going to do a transit reading and we're going to take a look at the recent transit of the Sun conjoining Pluto and also the upcoming transit of Mars conjoining Pluto. We're going to take a look at both the astrology and then we're also going to do a tarot reading to dive deeper into the energies. This is your first time here, please like and subscribe. This channel is dedicated to using astrology and tarot to bring forward guidance to help you navigate your path with clarity and inspiration. My name's Pan, and please only take what resonates with you. Nothing's ever set in stone. Just know there's always multiple paths available to you at any time, and it's up to you to choose the path that works best for you. If you'd like to skip ahead to the tarot reading, you'll find the timestamp in the description box too. So first, I just want to talk about the transit where, in my video last week, I spoke about how all the personal planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and the Sun and the Moon, were all going to conjoin Pluto in a very short window of time. And that's been in the process of happening. And in fact, the last of those transits was over the weekend. I'm recording this on January 26th. And so over the weekend, the Sun conjoined Pluto. And then the last one is Mars will be coming through tomorrow on the 27th. And there's obviously very dynamic energies whenever any of the personal planets encounter Pluto. I talked a little bit about this in my previous video. If you want, you could find a link to that at the end of this video. Specifically today, I want to take a look at the relationship that Pluto has with the Sun and also with Mars. And so I talked before about how anything that Pluto encounters, Pluto is about expanding your understanding of who you are. It takes you further. It expands you beyond what you've known yourself to be. And it ultimately is just revealing to you more of yourself. And they can call that transformation. You can look at that as sometimes upheaval and dramatic change, but ultimately it's always designed to put you in touch with more of your total being. Now, when we look at the Sun, I like to think about the planets, and I have relationships with the planets as to how they function, how they show up in our reality. And the Sun is just this burning ball of energy that is constantly giving, it's constantly shining, it's like shooting out this energy in every direction, and it's ultimately what's responsible for all life to be able to grow. And so the Sun reflects our light, the light of our soul self, the light of our being that is just always shining. It's just always very steadily expanding and expressing itself. And just like the Sun never actually dims, but sometimes we see clouds that pass in front of the Sun and it can create the experience of the light of the Sun diminishing. But the light of the Sun itself doesn't actually diminish. It's always going strong. And I see that as kind of how our soul self energy is. Like it's always shining and being expressed at its maximum ultimate potential. And then we kind of experience fluctuations in that because we're in this temporal world where things are constantly changing. And so we're experiencing these clouds that are passing in front of the Sun periodically. And so our experience of the light of our soul, the light of ourselves, is in fluctuation all the time. And so when Pluto comes and it makes a conjunction with the Sun every year, it's usually a pretty powerful event. And so the fact that we have both the Sun making its conjunction with Pluto and Mars making its conjunction with Pluto, which is also usually a very powerful event, within days of each other, really does signify this little window of time as being a very potent time for that expansion energy, that transformation energy, that recognizing who you are and allowing yourself to see who you are at a deeper level. And so, when the Sun encounters Pluto, basically that Plutonian energy is going to put pressure on any of those limitations and any of those clouds, so to speak, any of those blocks that you may be experiencing that is kind of keeping you from experiencing the light of your soul and the light of your true self. Pluto will kind of pressurize those blocks. It'll kind of put pressure on them in order to get you to see and express more of your light. I like to think of the analogy of like trying to if you had a golf ball stuck in a garden hose, you can't flow the water through the garden hose as long as the golf ball is obstructing it. And it takes quite a bit of pressure to actually build up behind that golf ball before it will be forced out the end of the hose. And sometimes that's how it can feel with Pluto, is it will apply a great deal of pressure to our system to pressurize whatever the blockage is where the energy is not flowing in an attempt to force that to move. Okay, so depending on when we have transits like this, sometimes things can become uncomfortable, and that's really what's happening under the surface, is that we're just having those limitations, those ways that we're not moving our own energy get pushed on, and we feel it. And so ultimately what happens is when we start to remove some of those blocks and those limitations in who we are, then we can understand where our intention is moving, where it is that we wish to express our light. Because just as though the light in the sun in the sky, it's always expressing that light, and that light is always meant to make things grow. We, as a incarnated human being, are always having the opportunity to express our light, and that light has the intention for things to grow. Okay, so the way I see this transit playing out is that Pluto is kind of stirring up and pressurizing any of the blocks, any of the limitations we've placed on ourselves, where we're not able to bring our light fully and express it fully in this world. And once that energy starts to move, then we get a sense of who we are and what we actually want to express in the world. And that's leading to this transit that's where Pluto is encountering Mars, because the way I relate with Mars, and they call Mars the planet of war, the god of war, responsible for separation. And my personal understanding and relationship with Mars has been about, it shows me the part of myself of where I'm motivated. It shows me what my motivations are, how my motivations are connected to my values, and then what am I willing to do to move forward with what it is that motivates me. What kind of structures can I put into place? What kind of action can I take? How can I move forward and enact and live out my values and what it is that motivates me? So kind of the way I see this energy playing out is that when we have the light of our soul, the light of our soul self is wanting to come through and express, when it's not fully allowed in a way, when it's blocked in a certain capacity, then our motivations and our intentions and how we would take action would be different than once that energy is moving forward and we don't feel limited and we don't feel blocked and we understand clearly what we want to express. Then our motivations come more into alignment with that soul light, that soul self energy. And so I see this as kind of happening in a polarity, to where there's those of us that have been doing this internal investigation work. We've been removing the blocks and healing and expressing and expanding more of our light. And so it kind of becomes natural par for the course that if we understand that this is the process that we're going through, then even when some challenges come up and some challenging emotions or some triggers come up, we use that to help illuminate where the block is, where the self-imposed limitation is, and then show ourselves how to move beyond that so we can express more energy and more light in truth. And then there's the other, I guess you'd call it, portion of the collective that isn't as savvy at doing this work consciously. Okay, and so in that portion, when things come up, when the Pluto energy of wanting to expand the soul's light into this world, that energy pushes on the blocks. Instead of people realizing that that's illuminating their own limitations, they will tend to look at what they're triggered by, what they find discontent with, what they don't feel good about, and point the finger and externalize everything as if it's the outside world that's going wrong. If we could just go and change what's going on in the external world, then we would feel better and we would feel more connected to ourselves. But that's not actually how it works, because everything in life functions as a mirror. Essentially, the way that you understand and you relate with yourself is the way that you perceive your life. And so even if some tragic circumstances may apparently be playing out in your reality, when you understand the truth of who you are and you know how to perceive through the lens of your own light and of your true self, you'll look at even those challenging, quote unquote, negative circumstances and bring positive energy to it and not be emotionally charged by it. And so I think that's what we're seeing playing out in the collective, is it's kind of showing this divide and this separation between people who've done this kind of cultivation work where they can understand how to shift their perception and focus on seeing the positive and seeing the light even in challenging circumstances. And then there's those that haven't learned to do that yet. And I spoke about this in my last video too, how there was this intense energy shifting uh, in the electromagnetic field with the solar storms and solar radiation and auroras, and also in the geomagnetic field with earthquakes and volcanoes. And we've seen a very strong movement of that energy over the last week. A lot of auroras being seen all over the country in the northern hemisphere. I live on the big island of Hawaii. We had the largest eruption at Fountain, 2,000 feet, was throwing volcanic rocks into the air. And that's an indicator of this intense movement of energy happening within the planet. Like in my last video, I was talking about how the energy we're seeing moving in the planet is just a reflection of the energy that's happening in our own consciousness that we may not be aware of. And so again, that's another way of using the external in order to gain more of an awareness as to what's going on the subtle levels of our consciousness that we don't understand fully. It's not just about what we're perceiving in the external world. It's about how we're sensing and we're participating in these changes that are happening seemingly within our own consciousness and also seemingly happening within the external world. And also there was the intense snowstorms. They've had a lot of snow coming in the northern hemisphere. And so I think those events that have been happening externally are just reflections of this churning up of this old energy. And that's what Pluto's putting pressure on. It's putting pressure on this old energy, any of these limiting ideas and old programs that people have carried forward. It's getting harder and harder to just hold them in place and continue to move forward in the world that way. And so I think we're just experiencing a lot of what feels like instability under the surface because there's a lot of fluctuating and changing energies, but ultimately it's designed to bring more light and more love and more of the truth of our soul's energy to bear, basically dissipating those clouds and allowing that energy to flow freely so that we can align with the energy of what motivates us and where our values lie in connection to what that light wants to express. And so it's kind of like, it works one of two ways. When you have more light coming in and more light able to be expressed, when you understand what that light is, you know how you want to express it, you get in alignment with it, and then that just flows. And that's using the alignment of the Sun, Pluto, and Mars, Pluto to align the intentions with more light and more power and more love, and to make the choices that align with those actions and build those structures and allow those motivations to come forward. And then you have the portion of the collective that is not releasing those blocks fully. That light and pressure is being put on the system, and more light is wanting to be expressed, but it's not able to be expressed in alignment. And that's what creates the ripple of everything from the social discontent and kind of the arguing that we see on social media to violence and chaos that can erupt in our society, all the way up to the wars that play out on the global scale. It's all part of the same thing. It's unexpressed creative soul energy that gets inverted and becomes destructive. And so I think given we're in this little window of seeing these really heightened energies play out, and then having a chance to really get in tune with ourselves and our own lives and ask ourselves, what have these blocks that have been coming up? What does my soul want to express at this time? what structures can I put into place to allow my motivation to take me in the direction of taking action on these things that are in alignment with this energy. And I feel like this is, as it's leading up to the Saturn-Neptune conjunction and also eclipse season that's beginning February 17th, I feel it's just vital for us to really become clear with ourselves that we can take personal responsibility for using our own light and our own energy in a very specific way. And it's really however we feel inspired to, but we can take responsibility for using that light and expand ourselves and allow that to flow into the world. Or we'll see kind of the inverse of that, of people not doing that and seeing some of the continuing side effects of the challenges and the upheavals that we're experiencing. So we'll see how it plays out going forward, but that's just kind of how I felt. I've personally been experiencing these energies, and I feel like I'm reflecting it in the collective of seeing this play out with other people as well. So we're going to switch over now into the tarot reading and see what further information can come through. We have completion, generosity, desire, child of the cosmos, the intelligence of the universe lies within you. And new moon. Okay, so what I'm feeling about this energy here is that I'm getting this image kind of coming back to what I was saying about how when we get clear about how our soul's energy wishes to express in the world, like it's a personal relationship that we have with the energy itself. And we've become really clear about the ways in which we have the opportunity to express those things and create those things. And so when I see generosity and I see desire, that's actually what we're most generous with. What we're most generous with and what we want for ourselves and for others is the same thing, is to bring that light and bring that love and to share ourselves in whatever unique way that we feel inspired to share ourselves, to let that energy flow through and to be integrated into the collective and integrated into our world. And that's why I think we're seeing this completion. And it's got a picture of the Ouroboros on it and how, this is a cycle. This has all been a cycle. And just like I was talking about how that inability to express the soul's light and have it invert into more destructive and chaotic tendencies, that's really what the last 13,000 years has been all about, is that we've seen the collective not be able to express the true light, and it turned into all these self-destructive tendencies for so long that just recognizing that cycle has run its course, that cycle has run long enough for us to understand what its purpose was, what we learned from it, and that ultimately to go forward from here, we need to do the opposite of what it is that we've been doing, which is, again, instead of inverting and not expressing that light and not expanding ourselves, all the energy is moving forward that is allowing us to fully be that now. And I think just realizing that that's what the completion of this cycle, that's what this time is for. And child of the cosmos, it just kind of speaks for itself. It's like knowing that that's what we're designed to do because that's who we are. As children of the universe, we're here to express who we are. Just like when you raise your child, and sometimes the greatest joy comes in some of the simplest activities where you just see them playing and singing to themselves and almost making no sense, but their expression is not inhibited. It's just very authentic and free and easy and fun, right? It's that simple. Like that's the natural aspect of human consciousness that lives within all of us. And when it's left to express without limitation and without restriction, we then return back to that consciousness of being children. I think that's where that kind of that adage about, entering back into the kingdom of heaven, you'd have to be like a child. We have to reclaim our childlike capacity to operate in authentic expression in order to have the ability to perceive the the creation, perceive the garden, perceive the kingdom of heaven that we live within already. And new moon is always the beginning, the beginning and the kind of the initiation of a new cycle. So I'm looking at this as, even though we have completion on one side of the energy, we have the initiation of the energy on another side, and it just feels like, again, it feels like it's reinforcing this idea of, getting clear about what it is about our light that wants to be expressed at this time, and just treat it as if it's a child wanting to play, and make it the most fun and easy thing to bring ourselves into the world in that way. Okay, so let's take a look at the center of the reading here. Seven of Wands and the Hermit. Okay, so this energy is kind of talking about how when you are really stepping up to operate at a higher level, there's a certain amount of practice and training that has gone into operating at that level. I like to use the video game analogy a lot, because if you train, you're playing a video game, and even if you die over and over again, you're building up the ability, you're getting more familiar with the level, and you have that feeling of like, I'm in control and I can master this, I'm capable. And so that's kind of the energy, the center of this reading. And yet, because it's being crossed by the Hermit energy, the Hermit is always sourcing on the inner light. And so what this tells me is that having that feeling of capability, having that feeling of, this is what I've been working towards, this is kind of what I've been training, I feel capable of meeting these challenges, and I know that it's my connection to myself, and it's the embodiment of my own light that is moving this forward. This isn't about achieving anything in the world specifically, or showing up in a particular way for anyone else. This is a deeply internal process. It's a relationship that you have with your own light and your own knowing of who you are. And it's almost like, the most important relationship that we have is between our ego and our soul. Like, all the other relationships are kind of just the venue. They're kind of just props to illuminate that the relationship that we're having, the conversation that we're having, the exchange of energy we're having between our ego and our soul is the most important relationship. And it's the only relationship that actually is of vital importance. That we're in communication, and we're letting that energy, and we're having that energy working together harmoniously. And no matter what's happening outside of you, when that connection is happening inside of you, it brings a deep sense of appreciation, connection, fulfillment, satisfaction, and all those values that we ultimately look for in life through the idea of pursuing, either romance or money or achievement, is actually most deeply experienced when you are fully tapped into yourself. And so I feel like there's a highlight on that, the internalness of that energy right here. Okay, so here we have energies of the past. We have the Nine of Wands, and we have the Princess of Discs. So what this is talking about is that there's been a strong push of spirit, a strong push of spirit energy, of fire, that's been kind of bubbling up under the surface, that's kind of pushing us further into our connection. And yet there has been this kind of, like, on one hand, it's taken a lot of energy and a lot of like determination, perseverance to keep moving forward. There's also been a lot of like exaltation, a lot of release and transcendence of previous limitation. And so I think what the past is just wanting to recognize here is to pat yourself on the back and just let yourself know what a great job that you've done just getting here, right? That just getting to the place where that this energy of the soul, this conversation between the soul is more present and is capable, you're capable of perceiving it, having this relational dynamic feel like it's working, feel like it's moving energy the way that it's meant to. And again, it still feels very internal, and there's a lot of fire energy here, but this is about your relationship with the inner light and your relationship with yourself and feeling very capable, very, very strong. Because the thing I found is that when external energies start to shift, this happens, can very most notably happen in finances, like when a financial situation starts to shift, or a job situation starts to shift, or a home living situation. Like the knee jerk reaction is, oh my God, am I going to be okay? And we kind of like our mind plays out the worst case scenario, and we start looking to see, like, we almost imagine what would happen if we didn't have our needs met. And the truth about this kind of energy is that when you get really tuned in to this relationship with your own light, it will inform you on what you need to do, when you need to do it, how to express what you need to express, when you need to express it. And then the rest of the time, you're just open. You're just open to receiving everything else from life that's meant to complement that expression. This is why kind of the new safety and the new stability moving into the new world is your deep recognition of that connection with yourself, with your connection with your soul. Because when you move in presence and with that confidence and feeling that you can meet any challenges, any circumstances, because you're present and your connection with your soul's light, which is creative. It's creative potential, creative energy that's ready to open up at any given moment, at any given time when it needs to. The relationship we have with that kind of creative responsibility will eventually totally take the place of all the thoughts and ideas about whether we think we have what we need in the material world, in the relationships with love. We'll just be so much more present with our creative potential, and we'll see that that's actually the source of where everything comes from anyway. And I feel like it's a very empowering place to step into in yourself. Okay, so we have the Six of Swords, future energy, and the moon. Okay, so this future energy, and I'm gonna bring up the moon because I also threw the astro dice before the reading, and I had the moon in Aquarius in the 12th house. And so anytime the 12th house comes up, basically what it's talking about is that there's things you don't see. There's things you don't quite understand. They're out of sight, but they're moving through your life in a powerful way, and they're doing what they need to do. Now, when I talk about the moon energy in the tarot, it's very much the same kind of thing. There are things we don't really see or understand consciously because a lot of it is shrouded in darkness. But what we can see is illuminated by the light of the sun and the reflection from the moon. And so because we have the moon in the 12th house in Aquarius, this really feels like going forward, and this is Aquarian energy too, the Six of Swords, is that there is a level of perfection occurring here. There is a level of, and I always, when I think of the Six of Swords, I always talk about nature, because when you look at how nature functions and how every plant form, animal form, insect, all the organisms and bacteria, everything gets its needs met all at the same time, all the time, every day. Like, that's not an accident. That is the perfection of the harmony of nature and the way it is designed to bring everything together and create fulfillment for everything. That's this energy moving forward, is that even though it may not seem like this on the surface, what we don't see is this level of the power of nature working with such a strong, harmonious aspect to meet all the needs and to meet all the circumstances, even though they're changing and even though things are challenging. This is very innovative, very creative. You can't know what to expect, but you can expect that it's going to work and it's going to fit and everybody's going to have what they need, but it may not look the way that you think that it's going to look. Like Aquarian energy is very unpredictable. It's very innovative. It's very kind of out of the box way of being. But it also creates movement forward. It creates a lot of breakthroughs. It creates a lot of what the next level of something is. Okay, so I feel like what's happening with this future energy is it's just saying move forward, even though you're moving forward into the dark, stay in tune with what your perception is being shown and work with that, meaning work with any of the challenges, work with any of the limiting beliefs, work with the potential that life is showing you, but then have this deep knowing that everything is functioning within nature and everything is being taken care of in a way that we don't fully understand and we don't fully see it. But our job is to stay tuned into our connection with ourselves and then bring and express our soul's light and our soul's energy as much as possible whenever we feel that opening. That's our job. Let life do its job, which is to use that energy to create growth and bring everything together. But our job individually is just to create that real strong connection with your inner being. Okay, so here we have inner influences, Ace of Discs, and external influences, Knight of Discs. Okay, so the inner influences is showing that you're on a new path. The aces, the way I relate with the aces is it's always just about you and creation. It doesn't have to do with anybody else. And the aces are starting something new. So you're setting foot on a new path. This is your inner state of being, knowing that you want to be on a new path, knowing that we've tread the path of the old for so long that stepping onto a new path feels exciting. It feels refreshing. It feels invigorating. And that's really what we're looking for at this time more than anything. And the way that the external influences are showing up has to do with healing. So the way I like to relate with the Knight of Discs is it's the fiery part of Earth. It's the spirit coming down to Earth. And so whenever the spirit is fully able to embody and merge with the earth, that's what we call the harvest. That's what we call the bringing the yield of creative influence to bear in a physical way. And so because it's in the external position, it's just saying, look to those people, places, and things to reflect back that this is a process of deep spiritual embodiment, and anything that has been out of alignment is being stirred up and brought into healing, brought into union with the self and with the soul self. And let's show hidden influences, Queen of Pentacles. So we have the Queen and the Knight of Pentacles in influences. So this is this is all really grounded. This is grounded earth energy. This is about the material world. So a lot of fire here and a lot of earth. About harvest, cultivating the fire, cultivating the spirit within, and then watching as it begins to take form and infuse itself into the material. Okay, so here we have the gateway. This is the archetype that's wanting to be embodied that will lead you to your outcome. And this is the Nine of Discs. So the Nine of Discs is about increase, it's about gain, it's about the expansion of abundance. But the way I love to read disc energy is that it's about your connection to your life force energy as it relates with the material world. That's why things like how you what you eat and the kind of like physical practices you have, spiritual practices with the body, the way that you live in your environment, these are all ways that you actually connect with a deep essence of your own life force as it manifests through the physical world. So I don't see discs necessarily as money, even though money can be material energy. It's your consciousness. It's your life force of your consciousness as it relates with the material world. And so what this is suggesting as a gateway is to focus on the practices, focus on the things that make you feel connected, focus on the things that give you energy, focus on the things that bring you this connection with yourself. It's almost like if we were if we were a knight training in the army back in the day when knights trained, battled with swords and stuff, and we knew that there was a big battle coming, you know, like we would train every day and we would know that as we were practicing, those practices were designed to kick in when the battle started. And we would know because we practiced and trained that the next element is just that belief, that feeling of like, I'm ready for this. Like, I know I've been training. I'm a good knight. Like, I'm powerful. Okay. So I feel like what part of this reading is encouraging is that building this relationship with the inner self and the inner light now, and then training our connection, training your connection back to it. So no matter what happens in the world, no matter if the economy goes belly up, if the, you know, if the government dissolved altogether, if there was, you know, the next world war, like we're training at a level of spiritual connection. And I'm not saying any of these things because I think anything like this is going to happen negatively. Just to use that as an example, that when you become so tuned into your spirit, you know you can handle anything because you trust that this is the harmony of nature, that everything that's materializing and being manifest for you is for you to bring your light to it. There is no insurmountable challenge of like, oh, this is happening and it's too much for me to deal with. That's old paradigm consciousness. That's what's going out here. That's what's complete. What we're stepping into is I'm generating and creating this experience for myself to show myself what the power and potential of my creative light is. That's why we live in this world, to show ourselves what these creative potentials, how they could unfold as they move through us because we're participating in them. We're the vessel, we're the conduit for spirit to become active in this world. And so we can look at this world in one of two ways. Like, I'm not responsible for anything that's happening and I don't have any control because there's these, you know, terrible people and crazy circumstances that are too much to deal with. Or we could say, I live in a challenging environment that's full of consciousness that doesn't understand its potential to bring light. And I'm going to be the example because I'm going to bring my light and I'm going to demonstrate what it looks like and feels like when that light comes into this world, and it's going to affect everybody and everything else in it until it begins to completely reflect that light to me. Like, that's what this paradigm shift is. It's taking full responsibility of the potential of light you have to share and know that the world will follow suit. We can't wait for the world to change before we do. We'll change and we'll change the world. Otherwise, we'll kind of sit back and make excuses about how it's somebody else that's fucking it up for everybody else. But that's not really the truth. So that's part of what my mission here is to, in my perception of things, bring the truth of the potential of the creative power we have. And that's what astrology and tarot have helped me understand how to do in my life. So let's take a look at the outcome here. Here we have the Six of Wands. So this is the card of victory. I mean, it's clear in a way here that that again, it's almost like when this light is cultivated from within and it begins to move through channels into the material world, you'll know it. You'll know it because of how it feels, and it will feel so good you want to keep doing it. And as you keep doing it and keep investing in that, that ultimately leads to whatever it is that you wish to be in this world. That's what, when we talk about victory from the lens of spirit, the victory is I have the ability to be who I wish to be in this world. Like, it's not a material thing. It's not an ego thing. It's, I know this is who I am, and this is what I choose to experience in the world that I'm in. And when you have the opportunity to experience and you create that for yourself, what you wish because of who you are, and that all comes into alignment, that is cause for celebration. That is cause for victory. And that is where the outcome of this reading is headed. So I'm going to draw a few more cards here just to get some clarifiers. We have Nine of Swords, Gemini energy. We have the Ace of Swords, clarity, And we have the Three of Swords. Okay, so what this reading, what this layer of the reading is showing is that basically the only lack of clarity here, the only challenge that is occurring in this is in your mind. All the rest of this energy really has to do with the fact that life is very harmoniously supporting you and bringing your light and participating in a new level of harmony. And the only reason it feels like that's not happening is because there's misalignment in the mind. There's still the mind reaching out to want something or get something or see something in a certain way that it's not clear about. It doesn't understand what it's looking at. The Course in Miracles is a great thing for this. If you ever have heard of it or come across it, it basically is a way, and it takes you through all these different steps to kind of show you how to reframe your perception so you can see the truth in any situation. And it brings up certain very strong ideas of looking at things that are very collectively patterned or woven in to humanity. And it postulates and suggests different ways of looking at that are more aligned with truth than the way that the collective looks at things. So just remember that anytime you're triggered and you think you know what you're looking at when you're looking at a situation in the world, be open to the fact that you don't see clearly what is really going on there. And it doesn't mean you need to understand how to see that clearly immediately, but just be open to the idea that in this reading, it's suggesting that there is a lot of lack of clarity, but that lack of clarity is coming through the perception of the mind. And the perception of the mind can be changed. Perception is something we're in control of. This is one of the lessons Saturn has taught me, is that Saturn shows you how you can make choices and shows you the effects of those choices. And one of the ways you can choose is in your perception. You have a multiple different ways to perceive any situation, and each different perception has a different frequency. And if you get clear about consciously choosing, you can choose perceptions that have higher frequencies, and you can stay in a higher frequency way of relating with life. And the way that we know that we're not seeing in a higher frequency is because of the emotions attached to it. When we're triggered, when we're in blame, when we're in judgment. This is why Jesus taught all those years ago, judge not lest ye be judged. This wasn't just a nicety. He was really revealing deep metaphysical truth. If you're in judgment of another, you're not in alignment with the truth. You're not seeing clearly what's going on. It's not about just forgiving the other because you need to make it okay with yourself. It's about wanting to see the truth of what's going on with our projections and our judgments and our blaming. And so that can come up in a lot of ways. But ultimately, it's just this layer of the reading is suggesting if anything doesn't look right, it doesn't feel right to you, look deeper. Look deeper and be open to the fact that there is another perception that will potentially reveal a deeper truth. Okay, at this layer of the reading, we have action beyond the ordinary and sky. Okay, so what I'm feeling about this is that what this is postulating, this whole reading, this whole idea of connecting to your inner being, bringing this light expression, this expression of your soul, this light expression into the world. This is a new way of understanding what it is to take action. This is a new way of understanding that what we're motivated by in life can either be very superficial and very based on need and kind of being motivated by the fear of survival, or it can be rooted in our inspiration to express light and connect in a spirit way. And that's why when we think about taking action, we all have this idea about what we think we want, and then we think about what are the actions that we need to take in order to get what we want. What this is postulating here in this reading is that the way to get where you think that you want isn't necessarily the way that you think you need to get there. There is a way you will get there, but it will come through that small voice, through that intuitive voice, through that connection with spirit. It won't come through the mind. It won't come through the way the mind is trying to make sense of how XYZ, draw you a spreadsheet, and try to show you how to get there. That's not the way that you're going to get to where it is that you want to be. Where you're going to get there is by forming this relationship with your spirit and acting on those things that come through as a genuine expression of spirit itself. And then just know that you are going to invest yourself in this. There is a strong investment energy to this. Is that this isn't something that just happens in a moment. This is like building a relationship with yourself so you can invest in making choices and expressing your energy in certain patterns that will eventually override the outdated ways of expressing energy and patterns that you don't want anymore. You know, and again, these patterns, it's not all happening all at once, but this is a strong push at this time to get us to at least see, okay, these are old patterns I've been moving in, these are old ways of relating. I can see the new patterns emerging. I can see the new way of moving forward. This reading is about how to make that shift, how to move your motivation into the place where you're taking action. And it comes from inspiration. It comes from acting only on your inspired ideas and thoughts. Okay, so here we have the outcome for this reading. Netcaster, preparations come to fruition. I'm going to read from the book on this one. This is the Shaman's Dream Oracle, 42. The netcaster arrives to tell you to stop praying for the fish. They have arrived. And it's time that you cast your net lest they swim away. Everything that you long for is within reach. But it has been so long since your prayers were answered, you've forgotten how to receive what is being offered to you. Put down the prayer beads and open your arms and your heart to rewards beyond measure. Cast your net. Take the next step that you have been planning for so long. Remember that the fish wait for no one, so time is of the essence. Heaven and earth are in perfect alignment for your victory. The stars are positioned for success. The only one who can spoil the perfection of the moment is you. If you ask, do I really deserve this? You will sabotage the magic and shatter the crystalline flawlessness of the now. The netcaster can also arrive to bring you bad news, to tell you you've been snared in someone's trap and must wriggle free. Right now, it feels comfortable enough, even as the net begins to tighten around you. Do not wait until it is suffocating you before you realize you must escape and run for your life. It is still early enough to exit gracefully. Bide your time until all the conditions are right. Go to your place of stillness, of deep quiet, and watch the signs that a new opportunity has arrived. Right now, you are patient because you feel that things will go your way. Learn to be patient with people and situations that are more challenging. Yeah, so I like this. I like this is kind of showing how this is the time where everything is available, or everything that we've been working towards, where everything that we've been praying for, everything we've been wanting is available. And nature is weaving it into our reality in a seamless way. And the only place that we're getting hung up is in some of our perceptions where we still feel like there's something wrong, where we're still kind of holding ourselves out of alignment with who we truly are and what energy we can bring forward. Because, you know, it's just like the law of exchange is what you put out is what you get back. And if you know that you're putting out love, you're putting out peace, you're putting out understanding, compassion, wisdom, whatever it is you feel inspired to share in your life, that you will receive absolutely tenfold the essence of all of that. If you're putting out some idea of discontent, conflict, blame, judgment, fear, then you'll continue to reflect back those frequencies, but not because everything you've ever wanted isn't right there. It's because you're holding yourself out of alignment by continuing to focus on the things that are out of alignment for you. And that's the gift of anything that's out of alignment. It doesn't feel good because there's information built into that to see how to reveal that that perception is not been clear, that you've not been seeing the truth about that. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it there. If you like this content, please like and subscribe, share it with your friends, and if you'd like to reach out for a personal reading, you'll find my contact in the description box. We'll see you next time.